if you don't have belief, oftentimes you don't do it. When you don't do it, you don't get any results. And that proves to you that you don't have to do it. It proves to you that, oh, I did the right thing by not doing it. No feedback. Okay, cool.
That was the old limiting belief. That's not even remotely true based on our new awareness of neuroscience. You can change almost everything about your physical and mental and emotional capabilities.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode, number 977. Are your expectations hurting your self-esteem? Today, for episode number 978, which of these mindsets do you have? So, as you have heard Alan mention in the last few episodes, we have a new book in book club, Mindset by Carol Dweck. And one of the reasons we did that is because I've been telling Alan for the last however many years that that's just a very, very impactful book for anybody, no matter where they are in their journey. It's valuable to hear the stories, to hear the lessons. But that book is about this, the difference between having a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, and the results that you can expect based on the mindsets that you have. So I remember I had this conversation. It might have been with you, Alan, or maybe it was just like an inner dialogue conversation. But I remember early in my journey, I was learning fairly consistently. I think this was probably the point in my journey where I was playing video games and listening to audiobooks. I was like, I'm going to multitask here. I'm going to have fun and get better. Awesome. And I don't really think I was really, taking much in from the audiobooks. But I remember having this thought of, why am I doing this? What is the importance of me learning? I don't know how much is really going to change. I've been pretty successful thus far in my life, and I haven't really had to learn that much. I didn't understand the value of it. And Alan's the polar opposite. Alan values education at a very, very high level. I just never did. I didn't really care that much. The reason I had a fixed mindset, I didn't understand the importance of education. Sorry. I keep looking at you, Alan. It looks like you're biting your tongue because you don't want to laugh.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just in a good mood.
We're in a good mood. Alan was sick this morning. He was ill, and then he came back stronger and better than ever. Mm-hmm. Like a cyborg.
I watched a docuseries called Man in the Arena.
Big fan.
That Kevin suggested. Many people have suggested it to me. My mom actually said he reminds me a lot of you, so that was really cool. But anyways, so yeah, I came back, and we are here, and we are ready to rock and roll. But Kev, the reason why I'm laughing is because you sometimes you'll misspeak and try to play it off like you didn't, and it's actually really, really fun for me.
What did I say?
You tried to say things one way and then shifted quickly, but you do a good job of it. No one else would notice except for me, I think.
Well, thank you for calling it out and bringing everybody's awareness to the fact that I misspoken. No, I'm just kidding.
You're welcome.
So I just remember having this conversation, and I'm sure I've had this conversation with you too, Alan, of I don't understand the importance of learning. It doesn't make that much sense to me at the time that me learning something from this book is going to directly impact my life. There was a misconnection there for me. It just didn't land. It didn't make any sense. I didn't understand the importance of it. And I had a very, very fixed mindset.
What would you say to you now? Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
Super important.
What would I say to me? What would I say now to me back then?
Yeah, what would have landed?
I don't know.
Because I worked on this one with you for quite some time.
Yeah. I said this on a podcast the other day. I said, the results that you are getting in your life are directly correlated to the mindset you have. And I would have sat myself down and said, look, Kev, with all the love, I feel like you kind of have a fixed mindset and you assume everything is the way it is forever. And that's not true. Everything that is the way it is now is because of the way it's been. And if you shift what you're doing in your life, you'll also shift your results. But that's got to start with your mindset. That probably something along the lines of that. The importance of mindset, you'll hear people say mindset is everything. I don't think mindset is everything, but I do believe it's one of those things that if you don't work on shifting it, it doesn't really matter your mentors. It doesn't really matter the opportunities you've been given. It doesn't really matter how much money you have. If you don't have the right mindset for what you want out of life, you're going to be jeffing. So that book, Mindset, is about the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. I remember that I gave a speech and it was called Cultivating Confidence. And one of the things I talked about was at the beginning of any journey, and this is really important to listen to in regards to a growth versus fixed mindset. If you have a fixed mindset, you don't believe that what you're doing is either worth it or you're going to get better or you're going to learn or you're going to grow. If you don't have belief, oftentimes you don't do it. When you don't do it, you don't get any results. And that proves to you that you don't have to do it. It proves to you that, oh, I did the right thing by not doing it. No feedback. Okay, cool. When you don't get any results, you don't have any lessons and you don't have a new awareness. And then that cycle continues forever. When you don't believe, you don't do, you don't get feedback, you don't get results, you prove to yourself that, you know what? It's better that I didn't do this. That's a fixed mindset. I can't start a podcast because of this. So I don't start a podcast because I don't believe it's possible. I don't get any new information. I don't make it to episode 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 150, 300, 500, 700, 975, and have all these lessons. And then I thus prove to myself that, you're not capable of starting a podcast anyway. If you have a growth mindset, you might not believe in yourself at the beginning. Maybe you don't believe in what you're trying. Maybe you borrow belief like I did from Alan. When you take an action, you get feedback. But when you get that feedback, you run it back through your growth mindset of, well, it's not the end of the world that this went badly. I learned a lot of lessons, and this is probably the worst I'll ever do it. Right? So you take the action, you get results. Those results are feedback for you to say, well, it's not that bad. I can actually get better. I can get better. And then you prove to yourself that I am actually capable of accomplishing more than I believe. That is a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset in a nutshell. And I think a lot of us, we set ourselves up for failure, myself included in the past, when we think, I don't think I can do this. I don't believe I can get better. This is how I am. The way I am today is the way I am forever. That is a very, very common limiting belief people have, and it's holding them back at a very, very high level. If you're listening to this, I would say you're probably closer to growth than fixed because, in order to listen to a self-improvement podcast, you have to be aiming for a growth mindset at least. But our goal is to raise your awareness to maybe there are some blocks still. Maybe there are some places where you have a fixed mindset. Maybe it's around relationships. Maybe it's around money. Maybe it's around learning. Maybe it's around what's possible for you. And we want to help you shift that.
Well, the thing is we're determining our beliefs oftentimes based on evidence, based on what we can see, hear, taste, touch around us. But what if we're just looking at the wrong evidence? You can literally, whether it's starting a podcast or whatever. I remember early on, Kev, there was someone who wanted to go back to school. Amy, shout out to Amy. And we've said this story before. She's like, well, I can't go back to school. And it's like, okay, well, let's write out a list of 2 columns. Let's write out a list of reasons why you could go back to school and you could succeed. And let's write out a list of reasons why you can't. Okay, let's just throw out that second list of why you can't. Let's just focus on all of the reasons you can. Read that list over and over and over again. And so my purpose on this episode, but first I want to circle back here, Kev. When it comes to the learning piece, very recently, Kevin and I had a conversation behind the scenes about blind spots. And we're going to do another episode about this another time. But one of Kevin's biggest blind spots, he already admitted on this episode, which is I didn't connect what I wanted to achieve with learning. And learning is such a critical component, one of the most critical components to achieving anything that you want. That's what Next Level University, that's why we called it this, is you're here to learn, essentially. But what I want to ask you, Kev, is you would have sat Kev down and you would have said, listen, you have a fixed mindset. I get that. What would you have said to try to convince him about the merits of learning? Because early on, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, Kev, there was a guest that we had on the show of the Hyperconscious podcast way, way, way back that afterwards, or during the show, I'm pretty sure, I was like, what books have you read? Mm-hmm. And this guy was like, honestly, I don't really think you need to read books. I don't think books are that valuable. And Kevin was like, yep, me too.
Hell yeah.
He really resonated. And if we had interviewed someone like that now, we would say, honestly, I think you're leaving a lot of valuable information, knowledge, and potential power on the table by not reading books. Whatever you want to achieve, definitely books will help you. And that's very clear. So back then, Kev didn't really believe in the merits of books, and for a long time, he used an app called Blinkist instead of reading the actual books, which again, totally fine, because that's a cheat code for learning too. But right before we jumped on this podcast episode, I said, Kev, I've got a book that you've got to read. Because we were having a conversation, and all of a sudden it clicked, and I was walking Tucker earlier, and I was listening to this book. It's called Peak. And I was thinking about how much Kevin has adapted his mind and his mindset, and his brain, quite frankly, has shifted and changed. And if you study neuroscience, there's functional, chemical, and structural changes that can happen in the brain, which is why a fixed mindset doesn't make sense, because it's not based in real science. Because a fixed mindset, based on Carol Dweck's understanding of it in the book Mindset, which we're talking about and reading in book club, was, okay, you're born with these character traits and you can't change them. That was the old limiting belief. That's not even remotely true based on our new awareness of neuroscience. You can change almost everything about your physical and mental and emotional capabilities. Obviously, you can't sprout longer legs or anything like that, but in terms of your capabilities of speaking, podcasting, coaching, writing, oratory, or business, or whatever, you can change these things. You can improve these things. So, Kev, to get back to you, what would you have said to the Kevin back then who, Kevin downloaded Peak right when I said it? And he's like, yeah, no problem. You don't even have to send it to me. Like, I got it. I'll look it up. The old Kevin would have taken a lot of convincing, quite frankly. What's different, and what would you say to that old Kevin about learning in particular?
It's the thing that's different is I think I have enough proof that it's worth it. You know what I wonder, Alan, and I don't know because you can't really be on both sides, but I wonder if you're born with a fixed mindset, do you even know a growth mindset exists? And then if you're born with a growth mindset, do you even know a fixed mindset exists? I wonder that.
Probably not, unless you read the book or hear about the book or study it. Yeah. I don't think, and I really appreciate that question too, because I told Kevin one of the reasons we wanted to do this episode is when I'm reading the book, I read this book a long, long time ago, and I'm rereading it now from a higher awareness. And I'm like, you know what? I used to think that I had a growth mindset before my car accident. But honestly, I think there are levels to a growth mindset. And yes, I believed subconsciously that I could get better, but I was kind of a sore sport at sometimes. I remember I hated losing, and I was very unconscious in my mastering of my crafts and my skills and my, whether it was pro gaming or semi-pro gaming or snowboarding or basketball, whatever I was doing, school. Like when I got a C on a test, I wasn't pumped. I felt terrible about me. Like I remember getting to WPI and I was one of the smarter kids, quote unquote, academically in Uxbridge High. And then I got to WPI and it was like, whoa, like this is ridiculously difficult and everyone's brilliant, right? And I don't think I had as much of a growth mindset as I thought. But of course I feel that way because now I'm looking from this frame of reference at 33 of like, as long as we work hard and long enough, we can pretty much develop almost any character trait we want. And that's my current belief. So yeah, I guess it's important to understand you probably, if you've never read this book or heard us talk about the fixed or growth mindsets, what I'll say is this, there's more to learn here. And I'm going to actually unpack the 4 mindsets in a second. And instead of just fixed and growth, I have super fixed, semi-fixed, semi-growth, and then super growth. And the reason why I wanted to do this episode is because I think that I had a semi-growth mindset growing up. I don't think I actually had like a real super growth mindset. And so I'll define these very quickly. Super fixed means character traits you're born with, you can't change anything. Semi-fixed is like, well, if I practice baseball, I can get a little better at baseball, but not much. And these other kids are just better than me at baseball or whatever. Softball, whatever sport. Growth, semi-growth is practice makes progress. I'll never maybe make it to the major leagues, but I can totally practice and get better and maybe be one of the top players on the team. And then super growth is like, if I practice hard and long enough, I can be the best in the world at this one day. And I think that fourth one is really, really rare, but I think the other 3 are actually fairly common.
Hey, I wanted to give my experience working with Kevin and the rest of the Next Level University team. It has been such a seamless relationship. He is so easy to work with, Kevin, and He gives you all the information you need, but doesn't overwhelm you. He's also meets you where you're at. So whatever you want to do, he'll make it work. And it's just, there's no stress, there's no drama. And everybody else that I've worked with has been patient with me because I am not technologically savvy. So they've been helpful and patient and just encouraging. And it's just been a fantastic experience. I highly, highly recommend working with them.
It's interesting because, to your point, I think that, I don't know that I would have been able to, if I could go back, I don't know that I would really be able to make that big of an impact. It's almost like, hey, believe it or not, there's actually something way, way, way different than you're thinking right now. I know it probably does not even seem real or possible, but just imagine for a second if you had a piece of clay in your hand and you could make it and shape it into a different way. You could stretch it out. You could make it into different shapes. That's your brain. You can do the same thing with your brain. And if you learn things, what you're actually doing is you're increasing the capability of the calculator that is your brain, the computer that is your brain. If you learn for a couple of years, you're going to believe in way more things for yourself that you believe are possible. I think that's probably the conversation I would have had, because I don't know that you can emotionalize something like that. I think you have to learn. Like, what do you mean? What's the difference between growth and fixed? Well, a growth mindset is this. Here's an example of it. A fixed mindset is this. Here's an example of it. I think that's probably the only thing I could have done.
Kev, I think you've been in each of these categories. So let's just go to a version of Kevin in each of these categories. I think it'll relate to our listeners a lot. So super fixed. Describe a time in your life when you had a super fixed mindset and what that was like, so that our listeners, again, my purpose on this episode, I wrote it down to help the listeners understand which mindset they really have and what are the implications of that. So when did you have a super fixed mindset?
Super fixed mindset.
Or did you ever?
No, I definitely did.
Okay.
For sure. Most of my life I did. I would say up until, I don't know. I would say for most of my life, I did. Because I didn't start learning and believing I could get better until 25 or 26. I would say the first 3/4 of my life, I had a super fixed mindset.
Can you describe what that felt like?
Not really. No, because it was just normal. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can. Nothing other than what I had accomplished seemed possible. And I assumed this was very much like, I assumed I got lucky. And what I had was what I was going to have. It was very much, I need to hang on to everything I have. I'm very lucky. I can't lose any of these things because I don't know how I got them to begin with. Just, yeah, it was that. It was that level. And then when I had that rock bottom, when my girlfriend at the time left me, that's when I went from super fixed to fixed. Semi-fixed.
Yeah.
Where I started learning, and I said, maybe if I work on myself, my external results will change.
What
and
about
that's when I started.
BEFD? You started a website called Better Every Effing Day.
Yeah, but
way back.
By starting a website, you mean buying the domain, doing 2 blog posts, and then doing nothing with it. Yeah.
Well, that's the start. That means you obviously believed in something.
Yeah, but
doesn't it?
I mean, maybe that was semi-fixed.
And then fitness-wise, you got better consistently. So it's interesting.
Yeah, but I never decided. Really. That's the thing, is like I was always in shape. I was talking to somebody about that the other day. We were talking about dieting. And I said, you got to be careful. He was talking about Tim Ferriss's 4-hour body or whatever it is.
4-hour body, yeah.
And I said, just be careful, because I could tell you the same thing of, I had cheat days where I would eat pizzas, breadsticks, subs, onion rings, but I was also always at like 10% body fat. So it didn't really matter. It wasn't that big of a deal. My metabolism was fast. So it's personal. So, but fitness, I don't think I decided in advance. I never decided, okay, I'm going to get this result by this date. That wasn't anything I ever did until, again, 25, 26. 26.
My God. Imagine if you did.
I know. I know.
It's wild.
That's why one of the reasons I think that book is so valuable. If you haven't read it, whether you come to book club, which would be great so you can meet other people and build your community, or just read it on your own, Mindset is a great book because I think most of us, even if we have growth mindsets, it's not as growth as it could be.
Yeah, for sure. And I felt that way too.
Yeah, and that's the new distinction for me is my mindset is the most growth it's ever been. For sure. It's not super growth, 100%. No, not even close. We're not there yet. To the point where, like, you know, we'll have a client move on, and in my initial reaction is like, oh my God, are we in trouble? Is the business going to fail? Like, that's not a super growth mindset.
No, it's not.
So I'm not there. But I would say right now when we started the business, it started to transition more. You know, the amount of episodes we've done, it started to transition, coaching, speaking, messing things up, and then still showing up. It's the reps for me. The reps have helped my mindset directly, for sure. So now I would say it's semi-growth.
All right, last question. I know we got to go here. What are you going to do to get it closer to super growth?
I think just continuing to do what we're doing. I think it will go there because that's what's going to be required of me in order to get the results that we want.
Are you reverse engineering finish lines now?
More than ever. In a lot of ways, I'm following your lead.
I think that is something that builds belief. Is when you decide in advance, like, okay, so if you're listening to this, you probably heard the episode where we set an intention to each lose 10 pounds. When we prove to ourselves that we can do that, we build belief. And I think that if you don't decide in advance to be in shape and then go get in shape, it doesn't work the same way. You don't build belief. You just think, okay, well, I just ended up here.
Yeah.
So I think there's an intentionality to this. And I know we got to go, but yeah. So the question that I have for everybody listening or watching, which was your mindset? Which mindset did you have prior to listening to this episode? Or honestly, in your past? Let's do that. In your past, like when you were growing up, which mindset did you have? And then which mindset are you now? Are you super fixed? Are you semi-fixed? Are you semi-growth? Most likely, if you're listening to the show, you're semi-growth. And then how do we get you to super growth? Maybe you set more intentions. Maybe you say, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and then keep the promises you make to yourself and then prove it. And the very last example I'll give a shout out, I've said this a couple times now. One client of ours so at Next Level Business Solutions, we, this actually didn't intend to be a plug, but here we go. So Next Level Business Solutions, we have consulting and coaching services for any business owners that want to grow and scale their businesses globally. And Kevin's the CFO of our company, Alessandro's the COO of our company, and I'm the CEO. And so we're doing CEO, CFO, and COO coaching now. There's one person in particular who literally gets coached by me every other week, Kevin every other week, and Alessandro every other week. You want to talk about a super growth mindset. That's someone who puts her money where her mouth is, and she intends to grow and scale a multi-million-dollar, eventually multi-billion-dollar company. And so maybe you don't need to invest that much. Maybe you don't need COO coaching. But if you do want to get to the super growth side, you're going to want to invest in your own personal development. And, you know, group coaching is a great way to do that. Start out there, potentially one-on-one coaching at Next Level Business Solutions. It's actually a lot cheaper than you think as well. But essentially, identify what was your mindset in the past, what is your mindset now, and what is it going to take for me to get. I mean, how many times did we interview David Meltzer? Like 22 times or something?
Yeah, at least.
I think his super growth mindset probably rubbed off on you a bit, honestly. Probably subconsciously. And then I know that mine has too. Because when I was reading Carol Dweck's book, I remember thinking, like, I definitely didn't have a super growth mindset before. I think I had the mindset that you have now when I was a kid growing up. I knew I could get better, but I wasn't like consciously deciding in advance I was more focused on results than process, I think. And now I'm more focused on process and results, and I'm more conscious about the reverse engineering of the finish line. So anyways, there's levels to this, and as always, we got to get you to the next level.
Well done. I think I have to sneeze. Hold on. No, it is gone. For the entire month of May, as the same as April, we're doing the giveaway. Leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice. Screenshot it, send it to myself, send it to Alan, and we will enter you into a drawing to win a $100 Amazon gift card. Nick won it last month, so this is a real thing that is really happening, and we're grateful for all the reviews. It helps us find more people like you, and it helps more people like you find us. When you buy something, you always look at the reviews. Tara and I are going to our 3-year anniversary dinner. I looked at all the reviews, and I chose the one that had 4.5 stars with 426 reviews or 626 reviews. That's really good. I expect good food. So if you want the opportunity to win a free $100 Amazon gift card, please, please, please help us out. Next Level Nation tomorrow for episode number 979, how to find the biggest belief holding you back. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. We are grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Please reach out